Hey everyone, we want to record something a little bit separate from the podcast itself. We wanted to remember and try to honor the life, if we could possibly do that, of Billy Hudson, who passed away Thursday, September 18th. News was shocking to many. At the time, I think the only short thing I wrote online was it felt like a bad dream. It's obviously not fair. And yeah, I'm sort of still, I think I'm through processing it, but who knows if I am or not. That's something you don't really ever know if you fully process it. I think for the first 4 days or so, I was sort of like 10% shock still for the first days of it. But obviously I understood what was happening and talking to everyone and having to give everyone the bad news. So that I sort of had to steel myself for that. And then so I think that might have hardened me too much at the time it happened, because I had to sort of like go through the process of letting several people know, and I had to sort of hold together and do that. And then it sort of, I think, slowly, it hit me. But, I'd known Billy since, discovering the Game Changer channel that must have been around April or so, March of 2011,
Retroware days.
Yep. Well, pre-Retroware days, I recruited them to Retroware TV. Right. We're talking, Retroware 1.5 or 1.0 days, just about when I got on the site and started trying to get people on there. And I guess what drew me to them at the time was, they were themselves, warts and all, very authentic, very fun-loving dudes doing their game-chasing thing. And I sort of just gravitated towards that sort of, their personalities and attitude. But Billy, one of the most lighthearted, sort of non-harmful people I've ever known, in terms of, I don't think he ever did anything willingly, as far as I know, to hurt someone around him or to hurt me. Consciously did something. That's like, it's almost like if he did something that, looking back, where, my relationship with Billy wasn't as perfect as I would have liked it to been, but I'm trying not to have regrets. He always seemed kind-hearted on the surface, and then below, he always seemed to live up with that, even though we all struggle with things from time to time. And that's probably one of the things I can say about Billy, is that he even when others were sort of like mean or unkind to him, he never devolved to that. As far as I saw, he always was above that. I think he always tried to look on the brighter side of those things. And I'm obviously heartbroken for his family, for his wife, for his 7-year-old son. Like I said, it's not fair. And it's been interesting to see people's responses, and obviously the vast majority has been very good. I've, there have been some things I've seen that I've not been a fan of. I would just ask those to not give into their lesser nature and try to remember what's most important in times like this, which is obviously the memory of Billy and his family. That's what's most important when it comes to this.
Right. I agree. I didn't know Billy as well or for as long as some of the other people that we hung around with when, we were starting the podcast, when Video Game Years was going around and stuff, or going on and stuff like that. But my first ever convention was Magfest 2014. Mm-hmm. And I remember, in the week leading up to it, I had known of Billy and Jay through work on the Video Game Years. But I had never met them. I hadn't met anyone.
You had seen them just in the videos.
Yeah. And you were pretty excited to introduce me to some of these people and whatnot. And I remember being introduced to Billy and Jay. And they were very friendly off the bat. And Billy was what's the word I'm looking for here? Just he was
Innocent?
a little innocent, but also kind of laid back,
Carefree.
carefree. And after you called me, it took a couple hours for it to really kind of start to process. And despite not being as close to Billy as others, Billy was still a very important part in my life, especially when it comes to the podcast and YouTube. Not even just Magfest, but at every convention that I went to after that, Billy was always checking to see if I was okay. Billy knew that I suffered from, pretty severe anxiety, something that I've worked on my whole life and gotten a lot better at it. But Billy was always there to make sure I was doing okay. If I was at a convention and I needed someplace to hide or get away, Billy would just tell me to come sit behind the table. And he always kind of, it's early on there, I think he kind of looked out for me, and I very much appreciated that. And I remember so many specific instances. But if I'm going to tell one story right now, and I'm not trying to make light of it, but I would like to remember Billy positively, and I think Billy would be proud of this. That Magfest, Billy's responsible for the worst hangover I've ever had, and I will ever have in my entire life. And I think that's something he should have been proud of. What happened was we were hanging out, and we were all kind of hanging out in the Retroware suite.
The Retroware suite, we'd get a suite usually for everyone at Magfest.
And we're sitting around, and I'm having fun meeting everyone and talking to everyone, and it's a good time. But I think Billy kind of gets the impression that I'm maybe kind of over the crowd. And he goes, "Hey, do you want to walk down to the arcade and play some games?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "I could stand to get out of here too." And I was like, "Okay, let's do it." So as we're walking out the door, you have to walk by the bathroom. And on the bathroom sink were all the booze bottles lined up in a row. And we literally walk by, and it, like a movie or a cartoon, we're walking out the door, and Billy reverses and grabs a full bottle of whiskey.
Probably Sean brought that.
And we left that room at 1 a.m. and we returned to that room at 7 a.m.
6 hours.
And over those 6 hours, we drained the entire bottle of whiskey, just passing it back and forth. And while the night is certainly blurry, it was one of the best nights I've had at a convention. I think it was the combination of it being new and being with someone who wanted to talk and just the huge arcade. And I remember Billy and I talked about all sorts of things that night, things that we agreed on, things that we did not agree on. And we just did that for 6 hours. We played Turtles. We played X-Men. We played an abnormal amount of Discs of Tron. I think we were at the Discs of Tron machine for like an hour. And we made it back eventually to the Retroware suite at 7 a.m. And we're absolutely blasted. We both know that we have to get out of here the next day. And Shane Lewis is there. And I remember Billy and I sitting there, and Shane, that was the first time I'd met him, very talkative, very, very friendly.
Sure.
He wants to show us his Home Alone 2 Genesis review.
Like on a computer, you mean?
Yeah, like on the computer, because he had just like finished it. And he's explaining, and he's really excited, and he's explaining to us why it's a good game, and I'm watching it. And I'm enjoying the review, and in my head I'm thinking, I want to play this, but like we need, like, Billy and I are ready. We got to pass out. So we watch this, and I dragged myself to the hotel room by, it's like 8 a.m. This being my first convention, I didn't have a bed or my own room or anything. I slept between you and Rue. I slept on the floor in between you and Rue. So it was bed. I slept in between the beds, and Rue was on the other bed. And I was like, okay, yeah, 2.5 hours. I've done this before. I can do it again. I'm going to be fine. Alarm goes off at 10:30, and I'm struggling. I'm struggling so hard to push myself up off the floor. And I finally do. And you know how they talk about splitting headaches? I always thought I had understood that term. I have never felt so literally like I had a wedge of wood being driven into my skull. And I pushed myself up, and I screamed, and I fell back down. And I laid there for 5 minutes before it was like 20 to 11. We had to be out of there at 11. And I was like, well, all right. And I got up, jumped in the shower, and
It was the last day.
it was the last day. And the entire time on that plane ride home, I'm like, wouldn't be so bad if this goes down. So that is, I mean, that's one of my strongest memories related to podcasting, to YouTube, to all of it. My whole life doing this sort of thing, that is one of the most standout memories I have, because it was a great time. I had met someone that I enjoyed talking to. I had real conversations with this person, but we also put down a bottle of whiskey and played games all night. And I think that really just, the reason I say I think Billy would be proud is, especially at that time in Billy's life, that was very much Billy. Chatting, talking, drinking, playing games, hanging out. That was him. And I'm lucky to have that memory. And we kind of grew apart for a bit, but the last time I saw him was actually 2 years ago at Really Rad Weekend. And it was really nice to see him and talk and kind of catch up and, I don't know, kind of be like, everything's good. And I'm happy I got a chance to do that.
Yeah, that's sort of how. I'm not going to try to pretend I was as close as Billy as I was the first probably 6 or so, 7 years. But whenever I'd see him again, the last time I saw him was at Retropalooza last October. It was always like, whenever I saw Billy again, even if we hadn't spoken on the phone or text him every once in a while, he'd text me something goofy. I guess the best thing you can say, and it's not a cliche, that it was like seeing a family member again. Like, I can go years without seeing my cousin, for example. Whenever I see him, it's like you're back to where you were the last time.
Yeah.
And that's how it was with Billy. There was no sort of expectations about, well, why haven't I spoken to you in so long, or nothing like that with Billy from either side. For me, like, we understand, like, that's not how it is with us. We've known each other too much and too long. We've been through too much together. We're like, we've gone past that stage, you know.
When Billy would see someone and he was happy to see someone, there was never any question in my mind that it was genuine. There was no pretense. It wasn't like a lot of other people you meet where you see them and they slap you up and they give you the smile and you wonder what's actually going on behind their eyes. There was just something about Billy that was fairly easy to read. And when he saw you and he was happy, you knew he was happy.
And one of the things that made Billy the happiest was, which I'm going to show you, like, I really love the fact that Billy, you know, he didn't care if other people weren't into the stuff he was into. He obviously loved the alien stuff, the ghost stuff, the conspiracy stuff. You know, he was into all the weird Bigfoot stuff, things like that. They were into the pranks back in the day. Him and Jay would pull their quote unquote pranks on me. It was almost like I was the brother they were used to like to prank, you know, like sort of like the third stooge. We were kind of like the Three Stooges those early years. I mean, those videos I'm like the annoyed Mo of the group, basically, in those videos. That's basically how it is. In those, I'm like the one like trying to keep them in line. But one of the things that I loved, I'm going to show you. Well, one thing I'll show you is quick, and other people have brought this up. The top 5 Friday Billy intro. So at one point they started doing. You don't know about this. You never saw this before?
No.
This is so Billy, and I guess at one point they started doing a Billy on his channel. They started doing these like, hey, just top 5, NES games as a kid you like. So I think they got a sponsorship at one point. But anyway, here's the intro to Top 5 Friday.
Oh, it's Friday night. I don't know what I'm gonna do tonight. I could sit here and pick my nose while I watch a brand new video. Whoa, Top 5 Friday tonight.
So you know that Billy he's a great editor, one of the best editors I ever met. I can just picture him in my head. Oh my God, he's gonna pretend this is the coolest thing ever, dressed in all black, stepping away from the microphone like he's an early 2000s rock singer, But Billy also did. I'll never forget when he sent me the Christmas Robotica song.
Oh yeah.
And he sent it to me before he released it. This was like 2017. He's like, "Hey Pat, you want to hear what I did?" And I was like, "Okay, sure." And then he sends me this music video of like these cheesy CG assets of robots and space, and it's a song about like escaped like robot warriors that are in love or something, and he's doing it like in this like German heavy metal rock voice, and it's the worst song you've ever heard. But Billy was loved the fact that he did it and pulled it off.
Yep, I remember that.
It's just like,
I do remember Christmas Robotica.
Oh,
you can't forget Christmas Robotica once you've heard it.
But I don't know if you realize that there's a whole album.
Yes, I do.
Billy did an entire concept album about these escaped robot warriors that like fall in love, go on the run from bounty hunters, and like then settle down into a normal life. You can see the track. This is like a concept album. He's trying to tell a story through like this, this royalty-free music that he's doing lyrics to, and it's all I think about when I see this sort of stuff, like Christmas Robotica. It's like he's spending 100 hours on this stuff for his own amusement, and that's what I love about Billy. He's getting so much joy out of creating this stuff that's so whacked out.
I think you're right, and I think one of the reasons why one of the things that helped us get along was it's his earnesty.
Yes,
he's very earnest about what he's into. It's not for show.
No.
He's not worried about whether it's cool or not. This is what I like, and if you let him, he will tell you all about it.
Yeah, and so like when he sent me the Christmas Robotica at first, he's like, "Hey Pat, this is going to come out." And I'm like, "Is this a joke?" I said, "What is this?" And he goes, "No, Pat, this is cool. It's about robots in space, and there's sex." I was like, "What?" I was like, "What are you doing?" But that was Billy.
Yep.
And he was probably like bewildered that I wasn't like understanding what it was. Like, oh, come on! I'm just like, I don't know what this is supposed to be, Billy. Is this a joke? Is it serious? Is this a joke on me that you're playing? Putting this together. All I can think about is like he's spending 60 hours putting this video together. For this, but that's Billy, and I love you, Billy. We're all gonna miss you. You leave a legacy behind, and yeah, that's about all I have to say right now.
Won't forget you, man.